Okay, let's go. Thank you. Good. Okay. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm calling today's meeting to order at 11:04 on September 20th. Thanks everybody for attending. Welcoming board members in person and remotely by video conference. Is that true, or do we have everybody here for the committee? I think we have everybody here.
Yeah.
Okay, all present. Please note that the meeting is videotaped. A link to the video will be posted on the Olympic Authority website following the meeting. And as we start today's items, I'll just remind everyone to speak clearly as possible and to identify yourselves each time you speak to speak or make a motion. An agenda is included in your committee packet, and I will ask Ed, substituting for Renee today, to call the roll.
Joe Martens.
Present.
Betty Little.
Present.
Art Lucy.
Here.
Cliff Donaldson.
Here.
Thank you. So that we have a quorum present. The first item for committee action on the agenda is the approval of meeting minutes. I have a motion approving the minutes of our last meeting held on June 11th, 2024.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
A second. Betty.
Moved by Cliff, seconded by Betty. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We have some discussion items on today's agenda. The first item on the agenda is the review of proposed 2025-2026 budget and a 2024 through 2029 financial plan, authorizing publication and recommending approval to the board. Ashley, I'm going to turn it over to you to run us through this.
Good. Awesome. Okay, so a little bit of background. We start for those of you that not familiar, Ron Graham, who is our new Director of Finance, joined us recently. So we have started on the budgeting process. This year, we took a different approach and focus to it. We were really focused for this year on delivering a balanced budget. And then as we look forward, we were prioritizing growth over the next 5 years as we assembled the financial plan. One of the things that we addressed as we took this approach was we were adjusting forecasted numbers to bring them better in line with the actuals. So looking back at historical actuals, rather than just applying a static increase across them, we were looking at what the actuals were, how based on our employment and our staffing plans, how these things would grow and how it would impact not just the upcoming budget, but the future year's budgets. We also worked very closely with the venues and the departments on their plans, whether it be master plans or staffing plans and programming. And we really started to implement these into the budget and the financial plan as we moved forward so that we had a more accurate look at the next few years of our operational and overall budget. And a lot of this was heavily weighing on our employee expenses, which are our greatest expenses, and trying to build out what the future of the organization looks like as we add more summer operations, as we bring the Ski Bowl Lodge online and some of the other expansions. We'll need to increase the staffing to support that. When we look at our financial plan and our budget, again, we're driving off of our ORDA's economic impact and our mission. So we really focus on a few main things that are going to help us to drive our growth. Number one, improving our guest experiences, which is also adding to the summer operations. We're still continuing to address antiquated infrastructure, and while we do that, we're also trying to upgrade our infrastructure and also increase our energy efficiencies. For the financial plan, so today on September 20th, the executive committee will review the financial plan. We'll address any questions, and then they'll move forward, which we're looking for a December approval for. Between now and December, there would be an outline that is posted online and also some hard copies at key locations that will be available for 45 days. Then at the December meeting, we'll be looking for an approval from the board on the proposed financial plan. From that point forward, once the state has passed the enacted budget, unless there's any changes, that would be fully adopted, and the budget and financial plan would be then made public and officially posted on the ORDA website. Some of the key highlights that we've seen this year that have impacted our current year are some of our summer revenue, our update, and our growth. So right now, to date, our visitation throughout the summer, and this is the Veterans Memorial Highway is really the first of our summer operations to open. That generally opens the week before Memorial Day. So from that point to date, we are up 8.5% on our visitation and just over 10% on our revenue. Really, Whiteface, the gondola, and the Veterans Memorial Highway have been our biggest areas of growth, and combined, they have seen over 100,000 visitors throughout this time period. And the arena is another one to highlight. Their growth is up substantially. They've increased their programs and their options for guests, and we've seen significant growth there. Before
you depart from this slide, I believe that photo on the left is at the top of Mount Van Hovenberg.
East Trail.
Which, for those that haven't been up that trail, it is a spectacular trail and an amazing view for the amount of effort that's required to get up it. I don't think that trail, it's not easily replicated any place. It is the amount of stonework and drainage features they put in on that, while all using natural materials and done without motorized equipment, is astounding. So I just want to say that because I've been up it at least a half a dozen times, and it's spectacular. And it's accessed right through Mount Van Hovenberg, so you have to go by the mountain coaster to get to it, and a lot of people do both in the course of a day. Yeah. And it offers a lot of, it is an easier trail once you get there, so it's more accessible for, kind of all walks of life. There's parking, there's resources there, so it also makes it an easier experience, especially for those that are either first-time hikers or venturing. Absolutely. It's uncharacteristic of most Adirondack trails because it's literally a staircase, or a stone staircase from top to bottom. And that is not your typical experience in the Adirondacks.
And that's the view you get.
While we're piling on, I'm going to brag about it as well. I think it was an amazing collaborative effort with DEC, with the Adirondack Mountain Club, with other trail builders. And it really is a model that is looking around the country. Other places are looking at that as a way to do sustainable trails that will last and will be utilized by myriad of users, not just the rough and rugged hikers, but the whole family, exactly. Little kids and grandparents, and I think it's something that we as ORDA, being the gateway to this trail, should be very proud that we have a way for people to also get educated in our lodge before they go up there in their pumps. If you're coming from New York City and you're not quite prepared, going hiking in the Adirondacks, we have an option and advice for people. So good picture.
Well put. Thanks, Art.
And Ashley's too shy to say it, but she just took her family up it. So it's pretty cool.
The kids and their grandmother. So awesome. And everyone enjoyed it. And there are DEC has environmental stewards that are there that help on the education, and also there are other resources in the shop in Hovenberg if somebody doesn't have water or they don't have the appropriate, footwear. So again, it's a really easy, welcoming trail to the Adirondacks.
Is there signage up for that? Or, I haven't seen
East Trail?
Yeah, I guess I haven't noticed it or seen it.
Yeah, there is, and it actually crosses, you have to cross the old bobsled track. So it goes right up.
Okay, I just did the coaster with Senator Bonestep.
Excuse me.
Sure.
He's still talking about it.
Yeah.
I would like also to ask about the uptick in what kind of activities in the arena have shown such change or tremendous growth?
Yeah, so we increased the curling programs. We also started a learn to skate program. That's a bit of a gap from the local programs. So it's trying to increase the amount of people that are skating. The inline skating on the oval was much more popular this summer. I think the word is getting out about it. But and also the public skating times, the stick and puck, a lot of the just access to the ice, those offerings were expanded. And a lot of them were selling out. Also not museum, the tours throughout the facility. So we have tour guides that take people around the arena, tell them the story of 1980, introduce them to the facility. Those were also quite popular this summer.
Thank you.
Okay. As mentioned earlier, employment and staffing costs are our main expense. We have a few updates here. So we will meet at the board meeting. We have a new director of HR. We've actually restructured the HR department so that the appropriate title is the Director of People and Organizational Development. So we welcome Brenda Smith on Monday. Ron, who joined us just after the last board meeting as our Director of Finance. And we are in the final interview stage for our risk manager candidates. We've seen quite a bit of growth. So looking back to 21-22, we had just over 1,800 employees. Last year, we had over 1,900 employees. Again, as we add operations, there's additional staff to support them. And as we add more staff, the amount of our staff that are tenured is diminishing. So we're trying to ensure that we are capitalizing on all of their institutional knowledge, that they're sharing that, and that we have redundancies within our staffing. So we're going to talk a little bit about insurance and electricity today. We've got a new process, as these are two really important contracts that we enter into. Outside of employment, they're two of our largest line items, so both the insurance and the electricity. Currently with electricity, we have a process where there's approval to enter into the contracts when the highest value for the Olympic Authority option is available. We're doing the same this year with the insurance. They're quite volatile markets, and a lot of them are based on factors that are out of our control. So the way that we've structured it this year, we've outlined all the insurance policies, all of the limits to the policies, and this will allow us the flexibility when the market is at the best value for the Olympic Authority. We'll be able to enter into it without having to come back to the board at that time. So we are, yep.
Don't you get some NYPA power for what's within the village?
We do. So we utilize NYPA at Whiteface, and also
We did it at Whiteface too? Okay.
Yeah, we do. And we're going to cover in some of our other slides later on today some of the solar advantages that we have at Gore, but that has really started to pay off. And I should mention some of the opportunities that we have to enter into the contracts, because they are such volatile markets. Sometimes we only have 24 hours from when the pricing is available to get it under contract before it changes. So we certainly want to take the opportunity to do that. If we don't, we often use the comparison that a 1 cent price increase in the electrical cost for Gore Mountain, for example, is over $150,000 of a budget impact. So it's really important that we have the flexibility to enter into the contracts when it's most appropriate.
Is it based with your examining over the years, is there a certain time of year that it's best to buy electricity?
Yeah, so there seems to be two pockets in the spring and in the fall. Historically, it's been in October, so we're entering into that time.
Right.
And you have to buy from the market if the NYPA allocation, if you reach that allocation.
We end up buying from the market, and I'm going to look at if I'm.
That's like at the end of December.
New York Power Authority, we use at Whiteface and we use at Bel Air. The reason that we can't use the New York Power Authority at Gore Mountain is because we have the solar facility.
Okay.
National Grid and the New York Power Authority couldn't get together on consolidated billing. So without the consolidated billing, we wouldn't be able to marry the two. Actually, we do have that up at Whiteface, and it's not direct. What we have down at Gore is we get a bill, they automatically deduct. There's a lot of paperwork that goes into up at Whiteface, and then there's the supply side, and then there's the demand side. We pay a fee to NYSEG at Bel Air and Whiteface for the supplies, for the demand side, for the actual servicing the lines, and then the supply from the vendors. So we couldn't be able to marry the two. I think my understanding is the Power Authority and National Grid got together and it became very complicated. There was a question whether they could even do consolidated billing. So my understanding is right now the Power Authority is not pursuing that. So that's why we have to go out to market. With the Power Authority, they go out to market as well, but that's all done behind the scenes. What we do for Gore is we go out and see what the market has, look who's available. We have to give them our usage by month. All the companies take a look at that and they say we use a lot of electricity in the wintertime, but not so much in the summer. We're willing to provide, and that's how we procure the contract.
And yet NYSEG can do the billing together.
Yes.
Amazing.
So a glance at all of the insurance policies. So the three largest of the policies are coming due at the end of September. So we are actively in the market for these right now. Some of the other policies have different expiration dates, but here's an overall, the executive committee approves the entire insurance packet. You saw the limits that were posted for each of them, and there were some background information and explanation on each of them, but quite a few policies, with the largest being the general liability.
Which ones are coming due in September?
General liability, I believe it's the first three: umbrella and commercial.
Okay.
Is that correct, Ed?
Let's see, we've got commercial general liability, umbrella, property insurance, automobile, crime, drone, and tenants and user liability. Those are the ones that are renew September 30th. Yes.
Okay. So along with the insurance, there's assessments and there's valuations on our assets. We're currently going through this year's as we're also out for these policies. Here's the growth of these evaluations over the past couple of years, with all of the improvements and the additional buildings and infrastructure that we've put into place. That has grown. We're very careful to make sure that we're balancing when we're out shopping these insurance policies, particularly that we're not just covering the assets, but we're also covering the replacement costs for these assets should there be a catastrophic incident.
I'm just curious on the insurance front. I know that it's, I think a year ago when we had the discussion about insurance, there was an evaluation of all the properties and the buildings and where they were in their life cycle, and we took certain buildings off too because they were not worth insuring. So I assume we go through that process annually. I'm curious whether we track how many insurance claims we make and how many are paid versus all the money we pay for insurance.
Oh, absolutely. But that factored into the equation last year when we increased the deductible from $100,000 to $150,000 to save the premium, because what we took a look at is how many claims do we historically have. We keep statistics on that. So that's part of the equation, because we don't want to buy insurance to buy insurance. So that gives us our flexibility relative to the deductibles. How many claims are we going to have? How many claims do we have to have in order to pay the reduction in the premium? You know, for instance, last year, the argument was we're going to save just about $50,000 in the premium. And how many claims do we have to have with our deductible so that it balances out? So we look at that every year. We took the Kroll appraisal last year, and by endorsement, after we bound the policy, we adjusted all the prices. We're going through a procedure right now where we're adding all of the additions that we had since September of last year, also re-looking at some of the valuations to make sure that we have them correct. So next Wednesday, we'll have that finalized, because that's necessary for the underwriter to insure the policy. So by next Wednesday, we'll have up-to-date valuations, which will carry us through next year with additions going forward.
Thank you.
Do we have, I'm sorry,
Go Cliff.
if we have a claim with 150,000 deductible, where would the 150 come from in order to pay our deductible if we needed to?
Our operating
Operating
expenses.
expenses.
I guess my question is, knowing how hard it is to get insurance companies to bid, how are we doing? Are we able to get people to bid on it, or is it monopolistic?
I think it's becoming more challenging, obviously especially on the property side where some of the, I looked through notes, the more weather events that we're seeing, those things are impacting the ability to insure some of the properties. We're in remote locations. It's hard to access some of our infrastructure. So those things play into the factor. I don't know if you've heard recently on how exactly we're doing from a bidding standpoint, but I do know that those factors are weighing into either the pricing or the ability to attract.
Some of them where there's really only two providers for the ski industry,
Right.
one being Mountain Guard, and the other one, and my understanding is that the other company that could potentially insure us had a bad year last year. They had a new underwriter, they took on some risk and they had some hits. So they're not really an option. So that leaves us with Mountain Guard. I did hear as of yesterday that relative to the automobile policy that we have a new bidder who appears to be potentially $25,000 less than what we paid last year. So we're vetting that right now. So those policies, other than the Mountain Guard that we could shop, we do shop on a regular basis just to see who's out there and get the best prices that we can, but always being careful that we're comparing apples to apples and we're getting the same insurance that we had in past years.
Great.
From reliable carriers.
Yes, of course.
Do we know what some of the other ski areas like a Vail or a Killington, when one company owns so many of them, if they just end up just self-insuring? Or ever since I've been on this board, it's been a challenging question because Mountain Guard has been the successful bidder, partly because we don't have much choice.
Correct.
And so I'm just curious, as the ski industry continues to evolve, some of the properties that the big behemoths have acquired, they've now spun off a couple that were losers, the ski areas. So I would just advise that we talk to some of those areas that have been spun off and find out how they're getting coverage. If Mountain Guard's the only player, or if there's another one out there.
Well, there's two things. We can definitely see what's happening there. It's something that we did look at last year. We were approached by other authorities that it's called a group captive. And basically what it is it's a number of companies get together and they basically form their own insurance company. So the way it works is right now we pay premiums to Mountain Guard. And the way that works, there's calculation done. And if there's no losses, we don't do a reconciliation, say we paid you a premium, but we didn't have the losses that we inspected. With a group captive, the way it works is you pay the premiums to this insurance group that's formed. And then what happens is over a 3-year, if you don't have a loss, then 3 years later, you get that portion of the premium back. So I went through the exercise, I was participating with some other authorities, and what we found was two things. Given the unique nature of our business, we don't fit in with the other authorities. The other authorities have buildings. We have ski centers and lifts. That was the first thing. So they wouldn't even do our property coverage. And then when I told them what we were paying for liability, they were dumbfounded. They says, you're doing extremely well on your liability. We could not even touch that. So that was a good indicator to us, though, even though we're stuck with Mountain Guard, we're doing quite well based on market conditions with other providers that don't do ski centers. So we're doing okay by Mountain Guard. That's what I learned from the exercise last year.
Thank you.
Interesting.
See any, keep track of the number of claims and how compared to the number of skiers and whatever participants we have in all these venues and where we are? Do you see with a lot of the new equipment and better snowmaking that we're having fewer claims or fewer accidents? Or you can't judge that because you don't know who's skiing, you know, so. But
Yeah,
I just wondered.
And we also track it because the visitation has been growing, right? So you have to do it
Right,
as,
and
as
numbers
more of
are
a
up.
percentage rather than an overall number, but it's something that we pay close attention to.
Any other questions, discussion? Okay, hearing none, can I have a motion authorizing publication and to advise the Board of Directors that the Executive Committee recommends approval of the 2025-26 budget and the 2024 through 2029 financial plan?
I'll make that motion, Betty.
Thank you.
I'll second it, Cliff.
Thank you. And
I just would add discussion.
Yep.
It's okay.
Yep.
I admire this new kind of look on trying to be, and it's a hard job to try to be accurate with revenue and expenses. But I think it always strikes me as, you know, why not just budget high or budget low and then you come in higher so you look good as an organization? But I think that we have a great record of revenues through the lows and highs of COVID, and so I think this proposed financial projection is thoughtful and well laid out.
thank you, Art. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. So the next item on the agenda is the Olympic Authority's annual policies of insurance and proposed resolution number 542. We've already talked a bit about insurance, but Ashley, turn it back over to you.
I don't have anything in addition to what we talked about for insurance. Again, I would just like to highlight that there's a shift here in the process where this year, instead of putting forth all of the policies with the limits and kind of pushing us into doing that in a certain time frame, what this is now allowing us to do is work within the markets to ensure that we're able to get the best value. So this resolution allows us to, as quickly as necessary, enter into the contracts based on the limits, the policies and the limits that the board committee is approving.
Questions?
Need a motion.
I need a motion.
I'll move it, Art.
Moved by Art, second. Second. Okay, thank you, Cliff. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. And that concludes the business of today's executive committee meeting. Are there any other items? If not, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Cliff.
Moved by Cliff,
Seconded.
seconded by Betty. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Meeting is adjourned at 11:33 on Friday, the 20th September. Thank you.